He was one of Scotland's most famous sons and a modern-day political hero. Today, former socialist MSP Tommy Sheridan was found guilty of perjury after lying about his sex life. He faces prison and total ruin. Tonight, we speak to those who provided the damning evidence against him.
He took a blade and ripped it across the throat of a movement that I'd been involved in since I was 22.
Using leaked police interview footage seen for the first time, we reveal the inside story of the investigation which brought him down. And in an extensive interview filmed just before the verdict, we hear from Sheridan himself.
I stand to lose years of my life with my daughter, that's what I stand to lose.
BBC Scotland investigates the rise and lies of Tommy Sheridan.
As Tommy Sheridan's solicitor, I have a statement to make on his behalf. For 3 years, my wife and I have faced charges of perjury. Today I was convicted and Gail was acquitted of any crime.
Just a few minutes ago, Tommy Sheridan, at the end of a 12-week trial, has been found guilty of perjury. Here he is, surrounded by his dozens of supporters who have been with him almost every day of this trial. Sheridan's fall from grace has been spectacular. But how did it come to this? Tommy Sheridan was catapulted to the forefront of Scottish politics when he won his party's first socialist seat in the new Parliament in 1999. After years with a tiny party on the hardline left, his national profile was growing fast. He brought socialism into the living rooms of middle-class Scots.
No, Tommy at that time had massive public popularity. Remember this guy, by 2003, in a Sunday Herald poll, was voted the second greatest living Scot.
This warrant sales cancelled, and so is every other one!
When he spoke, the hairs on the back of your neck stood on end.
After 12 months of non-payment of the poll tax.
His delivery, his generosity was second to none.
Has had a wage arrested, a benefit arrested, a bank account frozen, or a warrant sale.
In 2003, Tommy Sheridan made history when he led 6 socialist MSPs into the Scottish Parliament. It was unprecedented.
I think it's fair to say we thought Tommy was an inspiring leader, fantastic guy. You know, we couldn't speak highly enough of him. He was a best, as far as we were concerned, best speaker in the Parliament by a mile. Knock anybody else into a tin hat. The SSP, you know, changed the face of Scottish politics utterly, completely, and he was at its centre.
He was crossing the generations, and you wanted to march under the banner that Tommy Sheridan was marching under, without question. He was your son, your brother, your neighbour.
He was clever, you know, articulate, could organise, and he seemed to give up, you know, so much time to what he was doing.
Pollock was Sheridan's political heartland. This was where, in 1992, he won his first political seat as a Glasgow councillor for the Scottish Militant Labour Party. He painted himself as a true man of the people, a champion for the poor.
Pollock had been catapulted into a place it had never been before. This was one of the poorest areas in Europe at the time, and here it was famous for its best son.
Tommy's public image was very much a clean-cut family man. The kind of John Boy Walton of Scottish politics, and he had quite consciously cultivated a certain image that was different from his private behaviour.
He seemed to be a perfect politician, a clean-cut family man with principles.
He didn't drink. I've never known him to drink. He wasn't comfortable around alcohol. He would always try to get out the pub or leave a social or that as soon as people started drinking. He didn't smoke. He played football a lot. I think he played junior football. He didn't do drugs. He didn't go to horse racing. He never done any of that. His one vice, if I can put it that way, is he liked the ladies.
New allegations about Tommy Sheridan's so-called vice can be revealed tonight. The BBC has obtained these police interview tapes, which can be broadcast for the first time. More than 10 hours long, they contain fresh claims about Tommy Sheridan's sexual history. These include allegations of three-in-a-bed sex with a well-known Scottish football personality.
Have you ever been involved in group sex?
I reckon up to and when I got out of the prison, there's been times when I've been involved with more than one participating partners in sex. Always consent.
That, of course. And who would that be? Who would the other partners be?
No, I can't remember.
One of the partners?
Don't think so, no.
Two different women claim in police statements that they had three-in-a-bed sex with Sheridan and a prominent Scottish football personality. We've decided not to reveal his name. These allegations speak directly to Sheridan's sexual character, dating back to as early as 1996. One of the women was Anver Khan, who would prove pivotal in the Sheridan story. She told the police that the threesome took place in 1999, just a year before Sheridan got married, and that he told her that the other man had been in football. In her police statement, she said, "The other man and I had sex for a longer period than me and Tommy. Seemed bizarrely polite between them, sharing, having sex with me."
Do you have any comment to make?
She's got a vivid imagination. So she writes for a living and writes sex stories for a living, and that sounds like one of them where some partners put in appropriately. Nonsense, complete nonsense.
These allegations never surfaced, but the News of the World had got their hands on much worse. In an effort to boost sales of a new book, sex columnist Anver Khan claimed an adulterous affair with an unnamed MSP and that they'd gone to a swingers club together. It sent shockwaves through Holyrood as journalists and politicians feverishly speculated on who it might be.
They were all buzzing in Parliament, journalists were laughing about it, colleagues were laughing about it, and I started making jokes about it. Opening up a book, asking people to put on bets, marching into Tommy's office, asking Tommy who he thought it might be. Carolyn Leckie, my colleague and friend, came up to me and she said, "I need a word with you."
And I said, "Rosie, look, you need to stop this, you know." She said that. I tell her to shut up. I didn't use such violent language, but I said, it's Tommy.
And I thought she was going to say, "It's Tommy, he's ill," or "It's Tommy." I thought there was another bit she was going to say, and she said, "No, Rosie, it's Tommy." And the penny just dropped right away.
And I think I can remember her at my side. I felt as if she was going to collapse in the street.
She held me, but and she said to me, "Breathe out." And I didn't. I thought, how do I walk back into Parliament?
She was totally shocked and horrified.
You know, I just didn't want it to be real. I felt foolish, I felt astonished, and I think overwhelmingly I felt scared.
But it wasn't a surprise to everyone in Holyrood. Some of those in Sheridan's inner circle already knew or suspected the story referred to him.
I was surprised, but not totally surprised. Does that sound inconsistent? I was surprised it was Tommy. I was surprised there was a story. But I think those of us who knew Tommy feared that one day this was going to happen.
A few days later, Sheridan stepped down as convener of the SSP. He said his reasons had nothing to do with the rumours circulating about his sex life and everything to do with impending fatherhood.
Mr. Sheridan, only one question. Why?
Two reasons, Brian. Number one is I'm going to be a dad. Gail and I are excited, but we're petrified. We don't know how to be parents. We hope we make good parents, but we can't be good parents if I'm all over the country the way I have been in the last 6 years. And number two, our party is much bigger than Tommy Sheridan.
But the News of the World, buoyed with Anver Khan's swinger allegations, decided to name names and run a story they'd been working on for 6 months. This appeared, 5 pages of it. Fiona Maguire, who was paid £20,000 by the tabloid, claimed to have had a drink and drug-fuelled affair with Sheridan. For teetotal Tommy, this was more than he could handle. He sued for defamation.
I'm glad that they have printed this garbage, because now I can take them to court and I'm going to wring out of them as much as I can.
Defamation actions are notoriously risky things to engage in. And when you're taking a defamation action against an organisation such as a newspaper, then of course they've got huge resources that can back them up, so there are very high risks.
As the case opened at the Court of Session in Edinburgh, the News of the World were certain they had a strong case against Sheridan. They argued in court that Tommy Sheridan had had a string of lovers and was a swinger. The tabloid said that Sheridan had driven to Manchester to indulge his sexual fantasies at Cupid's sex club. The court heard how he was with 4 others, his friend Gary Clark, brother-in-law Andrew McFarlane, and 2 women he'd allegedly had affairs with, Danish-born Katrine Troll and sex columnist Anver Khan. It's a club for consenting adults, and almost anything goes. The 2 women described the evening and how most of the group went off to have sex with various partners in a side room with a peephole for onlookers. The newspaper then introduced 2 women who said they witnessed another sexual escapade at the Moat House Hotel in Glasgow, where Sheridan was alleged to have been at another orgy. But it emerged Anne Colvin and Helen Allison had both been paid by the paper. The News of the World also called on Fiona Maguire, the woman who claimed to have had a 4-in-a-bed orgy with Sheridan. She was another News of the World payee. But Sheridan, representing himself, claimed no corroborative evidence of her account could be produced.
Did you have a sexual relationship with Fiona Maguire?
I hardly know the person at all. I'm hesitating to say I've never met her, because apparently I have met her. And I told some people early doors when the accusations were first made that I had never even met this girl, but apparently I was introduced to her at a meeting in Aberdeen. I've never had a sexual relationship with her at all.
So what do you think then about what the News of the World printed in relation to Fiona Maguire?
It's laughable. The whole thing is laughable, and everybody knows it's laughable. If you scratch the surface and look at what's supposed to have happened, I'm supposed to have been seeing a girl for every 2 months for 4 years. I've made the point in court that works out at least 24 occasions, 24 liaisons, and I've asked for a date for one of them. I've asked for a month. Can you give me a date, or can you give me a month? I mean, it really is pathetic.
11 SSP members tell the defamation trial they heard Sheridan admit going to the swingers club. But 4 of his supporters in the party say the opposite.
The newspaper looks set to win. Then Sheridan pulls his ace, his wife Gail. She provides the alibis for the nights in question. But she insists she's no fool, that if she'd ever caught her husband cheating, that he'd end up in the River Clyde tied to a block of concrete. As the case winds up, Sheridan tearfully tells the jury that he'd never been unfaithful to his wife, and they believe him.
The jury of 6 men and 5 women vote 7-4 in favour of Sheridan. He's awarded a record £200,000 in damages.
The working class people and the jury who have found in our favour have done a service to the people of Scotland and have delivered a message to the standard of journalism that the News of the World represents. They are liars, and we have proved that they are liars.
Were you surprised by your victory at the defamation case?
Yeah, it's one of those ones, if you stop beating your wife, because if I say no, I'm not surprised, does it sound conceited? If I say, yeah, I was surprised, does it sound that I didn't think I should win? I always had confidence in my story. I always had confidence that if working class people sit down and hear both sides, then they can tell by people's deportment, they can tell by people's answers, they can tell the difference between the bullshit and the truth.
One former colleague thought they saw not joy in Sheridan's face in victory, but panic.
Tommy expected to lose. Tommy expected in 2006 to be pictured moving out of his big house and moving in with his mum, the working class hero. The court's done him down, the News of the World done him down, his colleagues and comrades done him down. That's not what happened. Tommy won. He beat the News of the World.
This result suggests that 18 independent witnesses came to this court and committed monstrous acts of perjury.
But if the Sheridans seem overjoyed by the verdict, the News of the World is astonished by it.
It was certainly a kick in the teeth, yeah. But as I say, a really unfair one, I think, based on the evidence.
Sheridan had won his battle against the Murdoch Empire, but the war was just beginning.